There is a lot of focus on, sorry about the noise. There is a lot of focus on being prosperous in the kingdom, for which there's nothing wrong with that. We should be prosperous. Well, most. Prosperity is more than money. You've heard me say that a time or two. So this is not just about money, but you want to be prosperous. You want to build a great reputation. If you're following along with the thought pattern here, for helping others build prosperity, and in turn having a certain amount of prosperity for yourself. If you take a tree and cut it down, turn it into wood, planks, build yourself a house, or build someone else a house. So you take your talent to build and produce a product that commands a certain level of prosperity. It only makes sense. If you do hair and someone sits in your chair and you do something that maybe they can do, but not the quality that they get with someone else doing it for them, that builds a certain amount of prosperity. What is also true is if you take a child, a spiritual daughter or a spiritual son, and you help build them, there's a certain level of prosperity to that as well. Or you take a company and you build a team, there's a certain level of prosperity to that. Prosperity looks different all depending on the realm we're in. Some people are excellent at building prosperity in multiple realms: family life, socially, politically, business, what have you, army. Prosperity is awesome. I'm fortunate enough to be prosperous in some realms, not in all, but in some. I do not know the depths of my prosperity. I do not understand the depths of my prosperity. I don't have that type of wisdom today. Maybe I will in the future. But as of today, I don't. Nor am I chasing the measurement. I'm focused in on improving myself to attract it. The tools that I'm using are all based in education. Well, not all, but the majority of my tools to have the level of prosperity that I have today and I would like to have tomorrow is education. Another one is building healthy relationships. healthy relationships. But still, it's me improving myself to attract those healthy relationships. Not one where I'm trying to act like I'm something I'm not, or I'm trying to convince someone to do this or that. No. I'm learning how to live intentionally in the day of rest, the seventh day. This is something that I believe we talked about in Genesis, but in fact, I'm going to redo Genesis. But it's its own beast, just walking in the seventh day of rest. In the midst of all the challenges, one example of that, I guess, just a little bit of a side note, is Job, who had to face his fears and still rest. He didn't isolate himself. I don't know what he did internally. Maybe he did panic a little bit. I don't know. But he accepted his lot in life and eventually came out prosperous. Understanding your position, the submissive position that we're all in. If you're a human being, you're a submissive, whether you like it or not. You know, all you type A personalities that don't think you're in a submissive position, try creating dirt and water and fire and air from brand new materials that you just happen to come up with. It's impossible. So we are submitted to the higher power at all times. No matter how dominant you think you are. I'm a dominant. But I know that there are times when I must take the submissive position. Oftentimes when I talk to self-employed people or people who would like to transition from employment to being self-employed or want to transition to be a business owner, I talk to them about the importance of wearing many hats all at the same time. There's sometimes you need to be dominant, sometimes you need to submit. If you surround yourself with the right people, you spend a lot of time submitting, even though you're the dominant. Like, for example, I'm not an accountant, but I like to have one. I'm not a banker. Well, no, I'm not a banker. I mean, I was one, but I'm not a banker today. I would prefer having someone on my team who's a banker. So you would submit to those who are passionate or have great purpose in that which they are called to do. People who have great purpose are drawn to other people who have great purpose. Therefore, your goal is to make sure that you're walking in your purpose. If you do so, as we've been discussing here in the book of Deuteronomy, whether you're setting legacy or living out a legacy that's been helpful to get you where you are, it doesn't matter. You still have the responsibility to live out the vision for those who come after you as well, even though you may be walking in prosperity. This is especially true for you, and for those who have never seen or never realized their prosperity, because some people have prosperity and don't realize they have it. But if you have never seen prosperity or you don't realize you have prosperity, then this message also is for you. Because you may have the responsibility of just setting the stage, doing the basics, changing some generational curses, dealing with those things, being open, honest, and transparent about the very things you need to change so that you can draw in this level of prosperity that you see, not only for yourself, but for those who are coming after you. Our eyesight is never as big as our vision sight. Shouldn't be. Again, we're talking about in the context of ushering in the kingdom of heaven, which is a generational purpose. This is not just about you getting rich. If you want to know how to get rich, believe me, I can show you how to get rich. If it's just about you, now you probably won't want to do the work. For a lot of you. But I think I could even explain how to get rich in just a few minutes. You choose something that brings in money, whether you like it or not, really doesn't matter. You study it, make sure you have a full grasp of it. You study your competition. Then you have to put yourself in front of enough people because it's a numbers game. And then you have to sell that product. Or you can go to school for 8 to 10 years and learn a particular type of trade, like how to be a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever, but you still have to come around to selling that product. Then it's a numbers game. Then you have to go to events. Maybe you have to run ads. You might have to get some investors, that sort of thing, unless you have a couple of dollars. And then once you start making money, then you have to put that money into vehicles where you can multiply your efforts. So you're bringing in money with work, and then you take the money and you invest it into certain type. Getting rich is not the hard part. The hard part, or the part that's most important, is dealing with your heart condition, so that you can become the type of person that surrounds yourself with the right people. Our tribe, like we're reading about here, and then doing the work collectively. Deuteronomy 27 verse 9. Let's start there, even though we were there in the previous video. Let's start at Deuteronomy chapter 27 verse 9. The Lord shall establish thee a holy, or set apart, separate people unto himself, as he has sworn unto thee, if thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God and walk in his ways. So you'll be established by walking in the ways of God. Is that fair? Okay. Verse 10. And all the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of you, because they believe God is walking with you. Now, New Testament, he's in you and working through you. And that comes with a certain amount of power, comes with a certain amount of authority. And people are afraid of a certain amount of power and authority. And these are people that believe in what you believe in particular. Let's get to verse 11. And the Lord shall make thee plenteous in goods, in the fruit of thy body, number one, fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy cattle, fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of the ground of thy ground in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers to give thee. So I want you to make note of that as we read on. Thy body, thy cattle, and thy land. Okay? Body, cattle, land. Again, this is old Hebraic language, and my promise to you is to turn the old Hebraic language, or not turn it, but to take the old Hebraic language and interpret it for you into 21st century language. But I believe we're going to come back to this. We have a little bit of reading to do today. Verse 12. The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure. Some of us are trying to break the treasure open. No, the Lord shall open up to thee thy good treasure out of heaven. The heaven to give the rain unto thy land. We talked about body, cattle, rain to thy. Now he's talking about giving the rain unto thy land in his season. So there's a particular time period called a season. And to bless all the work of thine hands. Okay? Of thy hand. And there's a particular reason why I want to focus in on the hand here in a minute, if I can get down there before these distractions get to me. In his season, and to bless all the work of thy hand, and thou, we're in verse 12, Deuteronomy 27:12, and thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. Verse 13, and the Lord shall make thee the head, and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath, if that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God. There are those commandments again, which I command thee this day to observe and to do. Verse 14 is really where I did that reading, just to get to verse 14. And here we go. And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, the right hand or the left, to. Now this doesn't make sense to a lot of you because this is old archaic language, but I want to talk to you about the right hand and the left hand. These are the sticking points. To believers in God, or for believers in God, as it pertains to success. You want to be successful? Focus on the right hand and the left hand. What is the right hand and the left hand? Well, we'll get to that in the book of Proverbs, more so. But I want to give you a little bit of a foundational understanding, since it starts here in the Torah. and quite frankly, not well explained to us out of our ministries or schools or whatever. The goal is to be plenteous in those three areas. He didn't say or, he said plenteous in goods, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy land. So the goal is to be plenteous, to be prosperous, right? We all want to be prosperous. Now, I just gave you an explanation of prosperity, but show yourself approved. Study to show yourself approved. That should be a hint to you right there. The emphasis here is, or part of the emphasis is a multifaceted look at prosperity. Let me say it again. Body, cattle, and ground. Isn't it interesting that we are also three parts? Physical, mental, and spiritual. Now, I'm not a numerologist. In other words, I don't study numerology, although it is a part of the math and science of the Word of God. I'm not an expert. Let me repeat, I'm not an expert on numerology. In truth, let me tell you how my personality. I don't study to memorize anymore. I study to get a deeper understanding of the mindset of the writer, where they're coming from. I'm more interested in what is causing them to write the material. Because I believe great material is written from the standpoint of your testimony, of your experiences. So I really want to better understand the writer's experiences. I used to read for the purpose of gaining so I would read just to try to implement so that I can get something. Now I read and I study for the purpose of being something, being different, improving my heart condition, improving my mind, becoming better. The reason why I want to do that is because I want to encapsulate, or I want to absorb the information where it's very real to me and it just becomes a part of my being. I don't want to be that guy that necessarily brings up a scripture and just quote scripture. I want to take and eat the scroll. That's my goal. So when this says you will be plenteous in goods, in the fruit of the body, in thy cattle, and in thy ground, that tells me a few things. Number one, the fruit of my body, my being as a human being, the personhood, the skin, the flesh that you see, should also be prosperous. A better way to put it, I think, if I can come up with a better way to put it, I would say If this body walks into a room, it should command a certain amount of prosperity. This human being. Some may even call it a certain amount of respect, even though this fly is not respecting me. Like cattle, I see, because back then they owned cattle, sheep, ox, that sort of thing, is your business. So I believe that your business should also be prosperous. Keep in mind, they're not writing to slaves. Moses is not writing to the slave culture. He pulled them out of slavery. He's teaching them how to be owners / ambassadors. Because the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. We can never quite own what belongs to God. But we're certainly ambassadors. So I look at it as the human needs to be prosperous, and I believe that's mind, body, and soul. I believe our businesses should be prosperous, and I believe we should prosper in whatever land we're supposed to be in. I believe in territories. And I believe to be prosperous in land, there needs to be a certain amount of respect earned with the people in that land. I believe that's one component of the afraid part, because you're in that land and you bring about a certain amount of love and respect in that land. So I believe that in that 3 parts that we have a responsibility. Again, this is 21st century ways of looking at it, but we have a responsibility. Not that it's just going to happen. It takes something. It takes the focus in verse 14, and thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command. These are the commandments of God. This day, the right hand or the left, to go after other gods and serve them. So you can go. So let me put it like this. If I focus my attention on studying other gods, that's bad. If I get my business through the methodology of other gods, well, that's bad. If I bow my knee to people so that I can fit in, gain favor, that's bad. Because it says that I'm not to go aside from these words. The right hand of God represents something, and that is the character, the morality, the integrity of who he is. The left hand of God represents his stuff. So invariably, what he's saying is, don't compromise to get the stuff. Always follow the right hand of God. And I believe if you follow the right hand of God, he will cause the left hand of God to prosper. In understanding who you are, you fall into your position. Only way to do that is to, at least to me, is to understand why you're here on this earth. Do you know? Do you know why you're here? You're here for a purpose. Obviously, you're here to glorify God, and I love those generalized answers. No, what is your purpose? My specific purpose for being on this earth is to be a teacher of spiritual truths. Specific purpose. I'm now starting to share that, but I've had that vision for, I don't know, 30 years. I didn't know I would have to go through all this. You know, but just sharing with people through demonstration, right? Lifestyle. And also teaching, as we're doing here, spiritual truths. I remember listening to this one pastor that says when he got, and I did this for a while too, it was a little bit overwhelming because it happened. He said he prayed for supernatural knowledge, supernatural understanding, and supernatural wisdom in every circumstance. I did it for some months, maybe a year or two, and it got to the point where, for me, I don't know about him. I don't know him personally. I just took his prayer life and adopted it. And I pray for supernatural every day. I pray for supernatural knowledge, supernatural understanding, supernatural wisdom in every circumstance or every situation, and I believe I received it. And and I got more people calling me, more people asking me questions, more people making demands on my life. It became pretty expensive. But I was called to do it because I did it. It happened. I learned from it. I stopped praying for it. But it was all part of the lesson of learning how to be a teacher of spiritual truths. If you don't have education as part of your plan, you will miss out on the right hand of God. Now listen, I focus a lot on reading the Bible, studying the Bible, and studying other books and listening to books and that sort of thing. But what is your primary purpose for being here? Of course, it's to glorify God. We glorify God in all that we do. We should. But is your primary purpose to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, a pastor, a business owner, self-employed, maybe a mother, a father, a janitor? It doesn't matter what it is, but whatever it is, you put your whole heart into that. And surround yourself with other people, relationships, who can help you with other aspects, because this is about us, not about me as an individual. CashApp $ the Mr. Paul Dozier, CashApp $ the Mr. Paul Dozier, or Zelle, paulcdozier@gmail.com, paulcdozier@gmail.com. If these video, audios, podcasts, whatever you want to call it, are beneficial for you. If they are beneficial for you, whether you can give money or not, please like and share them with friends, family, business partners, kids, grandparents. If they're beneficial to you, they will be beneficial to others. We're on a journey from Genesis to Revelation. I do not know how long it's going to take, but thank you for taking the journey with me, and thank you for taking the journey with those who are called to usher in the kingdom of heaven.